Passion for fashion. Passion for fashion. You got
girls who party with a passion.
we the girls with a passion for fashion. Ooh, Bratz.
Meet the Bratz. 10.5 inches tall, with big heads, almond eyes, pursed lips, notably provocative clothes, and their own anthem.
We are the Bratz and now we're coming to town.
Hello babes, welcome back to the channel. If you are new, welcome. So in today's video we are going to be talking about the rise of one of the most iconic dolls, which is the Bratz. So let's get into it. In the early 2000s, young girls everywhere would be sitting in the front of their TVs watching their favorite TV shows or cartoons when an iconic commercial would appear showcasing 4 diverse dolls. They weren't your average Barbie doll. Oh no, these dolls had beautiful full pouty lips, accentuated eyes, and didn't just come in one skin color. Finally, a doll for every little girl to play with who looked like them without having to shop at multiple stores to find a doll who looked like you. And at that moment, Mattel knew they were in trouble. In 2001, MGA would release one of the most iconic doll lines, Bratz.
Passion for fashion. Passion for fashion. You gotta self-express in the way you dress. If you got attitude, make your fashion move.
Don't theorize, accessorize.
If you got passion, show it in your fashion. The girls with a passion for fashion.
The concept for the dolls were born in 1999, and the name would come from Carter Bryant, who was a freelance doll designer while driving home one day from his part-time job at Old Navy. He would see a group of young Kickapoo High School teenage girls acting bratty. He was inspired by the attitude of the young girls and advertisements that would showcase hip-hop fashion. And so he would begin creating the first 4 bratty dolls, which were the name that they were called when Bryant had came up with the concept. The dolls would be named Zoe, Halliday, Lupe, and Jade. Carter wanted the dolls to symbolize popularity, but not stuck up and snotty, but stylish and hip. They had attitude and were self-confident. He didn't want to create your typical style doll. He wanted to present the consumer with something new, fresh, and innovative, and something that didn't look like your typical cookie-cutter Barbie doll. And when he created the Bratz doll, that is exactly what he did. He gave us an iconic fashion-forward doll that girls everywhere fell in love with and still identify with till this day. Carter had previously worked with Mattel in 1998 for a short while, but had left due to his creativity feeling as though it was being crushed and not appreciated. However, he would remain working on the Brat characters while working for Mattel. While working at Mattel, Carter would begin working on his Brat characters. However, he wouldn't show the designs to Mattel, who wanted to stick to this traditional Barbie and Barbie style because he knew they wouldn't be receptive to his ideas. Carter would show his concept to a friend who worked over at MGA Entertainment, and his friend believed MGA would love the idea, which came right on time considering the CEO, Isaac Larian, at the time was challenging his team to come up with something new and different. He stated everything they came up with looked like a Barbie. In 2000, Carter would present his sketches to CEO Isaac, and though Isaac believed the dolls to look like ugly aliens, his young daughter Jasmine thought they were cute. That would result in MGA offering Carter a consultant arrangement to bring him on board. Carter would begin working with MGA and freelancers to help develop his doll idea into reality, given his original drawings as well as a Steve Madden Angel Devil poster created by Butch Belair, who he would get the large head, little body idea from. And sculptor Margaret Leahy, who worked for MGA, would begin working on the molds for the dolls. The names of the dolls would be changed from Lupe to Yasmin out of love for the CEO's daughter, similar to Jasmine. Zoe would be changed to Chloe, and Halliday to Sasha. The CEO decided to not label the dolls' ethnicities so young girls wouldn't feel excluded from seeing themselves in the dolls, saying, "Don't call them African American, don't call them Hispanic, don't call them Middle Eastern, don't call them white, just convey the difference. From the inception of the Bratz doll, MGA wanted the Bratz doll to be more diverse than any other doll brands and would succeed at doing just that. Young girls finally had a doll that they could see themselves in. When Bratz were released, they were almost immediately a hit. The dolls were what dolls were supposed to be: animated, dreamy, fashion forward, but also to make young girls of all races feel like they could be a part of fashion, dolls, and beauty too. The dolls would launch in May of 2001, with the 4 main dolls being Yasmin, Sasha, Jade, and Chloe, showing off the plumped, lush gloss lips and almond-shaped eyes that were adorned with frosty, sparkly eyeshadow. When the dolls were launched in May, the sales weren't high because of the Barbie competition. However, the following year, around Christmas time, the dolls would see an increase in popularity. Now, I remember the first time seeing the Bratz doll in Toys R Us and immediately being drawn to them. They looked completely different from Barbie. Their clothes reminded me a bit of Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, Lizzie McGuire, but in doll form. They looked like the clothes we were wearing in the 2000s. They had the same chunky shoes our parents would buy us, and although it was a doll, you felt seen. I wasn't really into Barbie as much by the time that Bratz came out and preferred baby dolls and playing dress up and with makeup and nail polish. I feel like Barbie had begun to get repetitive and predictable with their dolls, so when Bratz came along, I was excited. The creativity that came from MGA and Carter when creating Bratz was what made the Bratz stick out from the other dolls on the market. We finally had a product that wasn't redundant, something that would pique the interest of girls everywhere and want to pick their dolls back up and start to play with them again.
Win the fickle hearts of preteen girls, girls who'd already left Barbie far behind.
The key feature about Bratz was that it wasn't Barbie.
The outfits that they wore were fashion forward and even made girls like myself want to get into fashion designing because they sparked your creativity. They weren't the same plasticky, cheap looking clothing. You could tell that the clothes made for Bratz were made by someone who took their time and loved what they did and wanted to stand out from Barbie. The fashion choices even inspired real designers to challenge themselves in the fashion world, where sometimes you may lose your spark of creativity due to becoming uninspired. But the fashion for the Bratz was so perfectly crafted: grunge looks, pastel girly girl looks, casual, glamour, you name it, and Bratz did it, and did it so well that within 2 years they would make $125 million. From comforters to bedroom decor, cartoons, games, McDonald's toys and Happy Meals, animated movies, online gaming, where you could play whatever game that you wanted, from playing matchmaker to dressing up, technology, school supplies and luggage. Bratz were everywhere and unstoppable. My entire bedroom was decked out in Bratz. I had Bratz pillows and sheets, comforters, the Bratz flip phone. Okay, that phone was iconic and I am still obsessed with it till this day. The journals, Bratz posters, accessories, and foldable chairs. I had about 150 Bratz dolls, the baby blue convertible, the lounge, the hair spa. They were the only thing on my Christmas list, aside from clothes and makeup. As well as anytime I got any money as a gift, birthday gift, Christmas gift, the first thing that was going on was either makeup, lip gloss, or some Bratz dolls. By 2002, Bratz was the top selling toy and their number 3 best-selling toy within the same year. Though the dolls were diverse, there were many companies who weren't accepting of that. When peddling the group of Bratz girls to big box companies, some conservative stores believed the dolls were too risky to sell, and not because of their clothing, but because of their skin color, only wanting to purchase the blue-eyed, blonde-haired Chloe doll wholesale to sell in their stores, in which CEO Isaac would refuse and tell them either purchase all or none at all, taking a stance against racist retailers. By 2005, the dolls had grossed $2 billion. Bratz was beating out all of its competitors, mainly Mattel, who would lose $315 million with Bratz being on the market. They were one of the most popular toys and franchises, and with popularity and love, of course, comes hate. Many parents would deem the dolls as quote-unquote overly sexual and inappropriate, and even make disgusting comments about the dolls dressing like sex workers, in comparison to the quote-unquote pure, innocent, all-American white Barbie dolls. The comments came from sexist and racist viewpoints of many parents. Barbie also wore mini skirts and dresses and showed off her midriff, and Mattel even produced a Ken doll to be her boyfriend. She wore 6-inch heels and bikinis, and were also sold for children to play with. So what made Barbie so different aside from her smaller features and skin color? So it was okay for Barbie to be looked at as the pinnacle of beauty, and for dolls to only look one way as if there was only one race in the world. But oh no, Bratz went too far by creating different looks and clothing and not pushing to have certain careers or being just one way. But you know, it wasn't Barbie, so it's not correct. Bratz were also created for preteens and girls from the age of 10 to 18, not a 5 or 6-year-old. And even so, I don't get how parents believe a child would think in that manner unless they were exposed to things which would be on the parents' behalf. Furthermore, children looked at Bratz as beautiful dolls with fashionable outfits to play with. I just found it extremely weird for some parents to make claims of the dolls being quote-unquote inappropriate. Why are you even looking at a doll in that way?
I really don't want her to be a brat, and I don't think that really encourages the proper behavior, and I really don't like the way the dolls are dressed. I don't feel that's appropriate for them to be wearing high-heeled platform shoes, mini skirts, and midriff tops.
Critics would say, well, you're sending a message, maybe a message that it's okay to dress like this, it's okay to be, even though the young girls may not say, sexy in that way.
The doll.
Are you concerned at all about that?
This is a doll. A doll doesn't send the message. The message comes from the home, from the parents, from the schools. A doll, a plastic doll, doesn't send any messages to anybody.
It reminds me a lot of when a woman who's really slim wears a mini skirt or tight clothing and people take no issue with it and even praise it. But when a woman is curvy and wears the exact same thing, she is called all kinds of names and people look at her in a sexual manner because of their own internal bias. Can everyone wear the same thing? Not always necessarily, but if you want to condemn someone for the very thing you praise on your fave or anyone else, you need to address that and understand that you may sometimes have misogynistic views and underlying bias that you don't even realize. But let's get back to the video. Mattel, of course, feeling the blows to their sales with Bratz being launched, would go on to create and release My Scene dolls.
It's my scene, you know what I mean, it's my scene.
And listen, I love the My Scene dolls. I had almost every single one. However, as a preteen, I wasn't aware of the behind-the-scenes schemes that were going on to take down MGA because of Mattel being sore losers when it came to sales. The dolls were a direct rip-off from Bratz, from the features to clothing and more. However, My Scene would fail to take the place of Bratz and would be hit with a lawsuit in 2005 by MGA alleging the company had tried to duplicate the Bratz multi-ethnic looks and fashion. The lawsuit would further accuse Mattel of engaging in acts of unfair competition and intellectual property infringement intended to damage its market share, confuse consumers, and trade on the company's goodwill. The company purposefully copied off of the Bratz dolls in order to make consumers believe they were made by the same company. I know as a child, I believed they were being made by the same company because they were so similar and was completely different than what Barbie had created in the past. Mattel would do everything in its power to take the MGA brand down and would play dirty, including allegedly paying the American Psychological Association to release a report that stated are unhealthy influences for children, while also trying to create something similar with My Scene. Okay. CEO Isaac would respond to the APA report saying, I have seen a few pages and I have to tell you, it's garbage. The people who have written this are irresponsible. We're talking about plastic toys, for God's sakes. If plastic toys are setting up the morality of this world, then we are all in big trouble. in which I agree with completely. The dolls actually brought you closer to your friends and made you connect with other girls your age and helped with your social skills. Unlike today where technology is at the forefront and some kids barely play with toys and have little to no social skills at all. Things would get nasty quickly when Mattel and MGA would go to war in court. Mattel would sue MGA in 2006 for $500 million, alleging that Carter Bryant was still working for Mattel when he developed the idea concept. As if you're not allowed to come up with ideas while working somewhere and it's illegal. Mattel was just upset that something they believed would never sell or be as big as it was had gone on to be one of the highest selling toys and decreased their sales, and they would lose the interest from a lot of young girls.
Bratz represented a new line of dolls and a new concept of dolls. It was ethnic, more edgy, more saucy, if you will, and a lot more fun. Girls really flocked to them, and they quickly took over a big chunk of Barbie's market share. A designer was working for Mattel, and he came up with the idea for Bratz. He pitched this to two employees at MGA and started working with MGA while he was still at Mattel. He promptly gave notice at Mattel and went to work for MGA. So Mattel figured out later on what had happened and went after MGA with guns blazing. Mattel brought a lawsuit against MGA and also started sending its employees to trade fairs to figure out what MGA was doing, and MGA alleged a lot of other kind of ugly stuff that was in the way of corporate espionage. This was a business move for Mattel. This wasn't necessarily an attempt just to seek justice and compensation for being wronged. Mattel wanted to crush the competition, and I think the jury saw through that. I think the jury saw Mattel as a big bully. MGA was this close to pulling every Bratz doll off the shelves and turning over the entire franchise to Mattel. And now Mattel is going to have to pay $88.5 million to MGA, and MGA is going to seek punitive damages, attorney's fees, so that bill could actually become even higher.
Round 1. Mattel filed a lawsuit alleging that the designer of the Bratz concept came up with the idea when he was working at Mattel. Round 2. Isaac Larian sued back, saying that Mattel tried to corner the market on doll hair, and more seriously, that Mattel ripped off the Bratz concept for a new line of Barbie dolls, the My Scene dolls.
This is, the My Scene Barbies are what has, to some extent, they're in the center of a little bit of the controversy now, because Bratz says these look just like their dolls.
Okay.
I mean, don't you see the resemblance between the My Scene Barbie and the Bratz doll?
What we see is an evolution to the Barbie brand. And again, the Barbie brand is made up of dolls that target girls of every age, because it's really an evolution of where the Barbie doll has been, with a little bit more animated look, but not necessarily something that's been inspired by the competition at all.
The cases are still pending, but both companies say they are confident they will win the legal battle, though they say it differently.
I'm not really going to talk about the legal piece of this. I have all the confidence in the world that the justice system and that our attorneys can work through those issues.
When we are done with Mattel, we would get them for billions of dollars, for not only for this, but for defamation.
So who will prevail in this doll brawl? It's one thing to be hot, Bratz are hot, but another to be iconic.
We're going to become number one.
Mattel, the toy giant, came along and had other ideas.
Today, Bratz got her payday at Barbie's expense.
I think it's a huge deal. When the case started out, it looked like an easy victory for Mattel, but the case has taken a bunch of twists and turns since then.
Barbie's paymaster Mattel has long maintained that the creator of Bratz stole the idea from them. The doll's designer used to work for them.
I think any industry that has invention and innovation at its core is going to be incredibly protective and secretive.
In 2008, a California jury ruled in Mattel's favor, awarding Barbie $100 million.
It was a giant court battle over a little girl's doll, but it was also about a big business.
Then last summer, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals stood up for the girls with a passion for fashion, ruling that the unrivaled queen of the fashion doll market could not just chop off the heads of any pretenders to the throne. Judge Alex Kaczynski noted that Barbie is relatively demure, whereas Bratz are urban, multi-ethnic, and trendy, dolls with attitude. In other words, the two products are plenty different. Kaczynski ruled, quote, America thrives on competition. Barbie, the all-American girl, will too. So Bratz got a retrial. This time, a jury of her peers sided with her. Now Barbie has to pay Bratz nearly $89 million in damages. And there could be punitive damages, too.
I didn't really fight all the way for the money. I think it was the principle of it.
And what is the principle?
The principle is that big multinational companies in these countries cannot come and basically bully and steamroll small entrepreneurs and get away with it. If we had lost this, I think our whole company would have been wiped out.
Barbie must be crestfallen, but she's a classy girl, and Mattel was gracious in defeat. We are disappointed by the verdict, the company said in a statement, adding, Mattel's first priority is, and always has been, to make and sell the best toys in the world.
Though MGA would win the battle in the long run, the pause on production of the dolls would cause a decline in sales. Mattel did everything they could to rival MGA, but they would fail constantly. Bratz were ahead of the game. They were doing things that were not done before. Even the cars for the dolls were advanced, coming with a real live station radio that you could listen to as you play with your dolls. There was nothing that MGA touched that didn't turn to gold when it came to the Bratz franchise. They motivated young girls and taught us about friendship and valuable lessons. We bonded with our siblings, cousins, and friends during playtime and gave us some of the best childhood memories. Remembering what it was like to have sleepovers and slumber parties and everyone bring their Bratz dolls, swap outfits, laugh, and just have fun. Bratz were the dolls that made other doll companies become more creative and inspire them to not just stick to one style, like Monster High and Ever After High dolls that were created by, you guessed it, Mattel, who once again got inspiration from Bratz. Their impact on the toy industry was needed for a change and to shake things up. While Mattel had become complacent, MGA wanted to make a difference and didn't care about controversy or pushback when it came to creating something young girls would love. The dolls became a part of pop culture. You can't mention the 2000s without the iconic dolls. Years later, young girls who grew up with the dolls would begin taking on the Bratz challenge and garnering over 120 million views online, dressing up like our favorite dolls we grew up with, doing makeup and watching makeup tutorials, and would eventually team up with Revolution Beauty to create a Bratz makeup collection with 20 items like eyeshadow, lip gloss, and makeup tools, a palette based on each Bratz doll, and would later create a holiday collection. Bratz has inspired fashion brands with their corsets, animal print clothing, mini skirts, dresses, and handbags, chunky shoes, blinged out accessories, and how they would mix grunge with hyperfemininity. Brands like Jeffrey Campbell would create the chunky squared toe boots, Cult Gaia, who would also collaborate with MGA to create a Cult Gaia Bratz doll, as well as a clothing collaboration. Though the dolls came on the scene 20 plus years ago, they still remain relevant and have a special place in the hearts of the girls who grew up with the brand. We are drawn to things Bratz, and it brings back the nostalgia for us. And Bratz made us love being girls. The CEO, Isaac, was resilient in his fight against Mattel to continue to produce Bratz for us and give us one of the best dolls to ever exist. And while we may have loved Barbie when we were younger, Bratz took over that love for young girls everywhere, or most young girls everywhere. And with that being said, this video has come to an end. I had so much fun creating this video. It took me back to my childhood. But let me know who you'd like a video on next. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Make sure your notification bells are turned on so that you always know when I upload. And I will catch you guys in the next one.